Germany, a silent but brutal war is raging. Wild boars are tearing through farmland, destroying crops and livelihoods. Seasoned hunters have taken up arms, stepping into a relentless pursuit that's far more than just a hunt. It's a battle to protect the hard-earned fruits of the land. This isn't your average hunt. It's a high-stakes mission where experience, precision, and courage collide. Follow these brave hunters into the thick of the forest, where every step could lead to a heart-pounding encounter with one of nature's most ferocious beasts. Will they succeed in bringing these powerful animals under control? Or will the wild continue its rampage? Join us on this gripping journey, one filled with danger, determination, and raw, untamed action. The team moved silently, each step careful to avoid making a sound. They reached a high hillside, offering a wide view to survey the entire area. In the distance, a dark shape shifted, wild boar. James raised his binoculars and signaled his teammates to get ready. Nick held his breath, aiming his rifle at the target. They waited, tense as if on a battlefield. This was the moment to strike decisively. A gunshot tore through the quiet air. The wild boar fell. The first victory was won, but the battle had only just begun. Could they continue their journey and quell the wild boar menace? Stay tuned for the next thrilling hunts. James and his team quickly changed positions. They moved skillfully toward a pre-planned ambush site. The atmosphere grew tense, each man silent, fully focused. Less than 15 minutes later, Jake suddenly raised his hand and signaled. Through his binoculars, he spotted a herd of wild boars approaching the area. A gunshot cracked, shattering the morning silence. One of the boars was hit and fell immediately. Not long after, the sharp baying of hunting dogs echoed down the trail, signaling that the target had appeared. James and his team moved immediately, heading straight toward the source of the sound. They hid behind dense bushes, all poised and ready, eyes fixed on the area ahead. The tension was thick in the air. Just seconds later, a massive dark shape burst out from the thicket. Seizing the moment, James squeezed the trigger. The sharp crack of the rifle echoed loud and clear. The wild boar collapsed, motionless on the ground, no chance to escape. Another wild boar was down, ending the threat to the farmers' crops. The hunt continued, but this victory fueled the team's determination. Do you think the shot was fast and accurate enough? Leave us a comment and let us know. After a long journey, the team decided to move to a snowy area in Lower Saxony. Here, another hunting party had already begun tracking wild boars hiding in tall, dry grass. Nick held his position at the edge of a thick patch of grass. The atmosphere grew tense. Suddenly, a massive wild boar slipped out of the grass, preparing for another wave of destruction. Nick held his breath, waiting for the moment the beast fully emerged from cover. He squeezed the trigger. The sharp crack of the rifle shattered the forest silence. One precise shot ended the threat. If he had hesitated even a second, the monster could have caused unpredictable damage to the fields. This victory helped protect the hard-earned harvest of the farmers. On this side, where the snow fell thick and heavy, James faced off directly against a giant wild boar. It stood towering in the midst of the white snowfall, full of defiance. The atmosphere grew tense, almost suffocating. James held his breath, slowly raising his rifle, aiming straight at the target. He knew there was only one chance to end this battle. Suddenly, the boar charged, fast as an arrow. James squeezed the trigger. The sharp crack of the shot tore through the stillness of the forest. Next, Nick had the final target of the day in his sights. Swift as a flash, Nick leaned to the side, reloaded, and squeezed the trigger, determined not to let the boar escape. The shot hit its mark, sending the wild boar staggering. It wobbled, then collapsed into the thick snow. The entire forest fell silent. Only the sound of falling snow remained. A monster was taken down, bringing peace back to this land. Nick stood there, breathing a sigh of relief, his rifle still smoking. One, the fierce battle against these destructive invaders has come to an end, at least for now here. After the echoing gunshots, the fields have returned to their peaceful state. A heartfelt thanks goes to the support of the local community and authorities who made this mission possible. Though this journey has ended, the fight against wild boars continues in many other places. Stay tuned for the next chapters, and don't miss the thrilling and meaningful stories ahead. According to reports, wild boars often leave the deep forest during the winter in search of food, leading to significant crop destruction. In fact, a study by the Food and Agriculture Organization found that boar activity increases by up to 30% during this season. That's why, despite the bitter cold, we continue our hunts regularly to help control their rising numbers. Our team began the ascent as planned. On sunny days like this, boars are more likely to come out and bask for warmth or forage for food. And for us, that's the golden opportunity. Each member swept the terrain from their assigned positions. From afar, we heard the unmistakable barking of our hounds. Boars were near. I raised my rifle, finger ready on the trigger. Bullseye, ready. Taking down a boar in this remote mountain wilderness is a thrill that words can hardly describe. A boar burst out of the undergrowth. I fired instantly. The mountains are vast, the boars numerous, but we only had our determination and our rifles as weapons. We pressed on toward the summit. Suddenly, what was that? A whole herd of wild boars came charging down from the opposite ridge. I locked my sights on them and quickly pulled the trigger. But these animals are incredibly fast. Despite my efforts, I only managed to bring down one. A 2-day snowstorm had blanketed this place in deep white, forcing us to delay the hunt. But with today's weather clearing up, we returned to the mountain range. "Look there!" Henry shouted, spotting several boars below. We couldn't shoot just yet, had to find a better vantage point for a clean shot. Once I was in position, I steadied my breath and squeezed the trigger. The bullet flew like lightning, striking the boar dead on. Think it escaped? No chance. Take a look. This beast must weigh at least 150 kilograms. No doubt they had just passed through here. Sure enough, our dogs found them and started barking sharply. We tracked them slowly, waiting for Liam to get into position in case we missed our shot. Then the moment came. We signaled and opened fire. The startled boars bolted, but too late. They'd run straight into the guns of seasoned hunters. One more shot for a fleeing boar, just as serve for the damage they caused. Meanwhile, on another slope, a large herd of boars charged out, catching Mervyn completely by surprise. But this was the jackpot we'd been waiting for. Mervyn waited until they moved into a more favorable position. He fired but missed. He didn't give up and chased after them. Thankfully, our hounds had cornered one. It was now or never. This time, the boars had no escape. We were just packing up to leave when we suddenly stumbled upon yet another herd of wild boars. The global wild boar population is currently estimated at between 10 to 15 million individuals. They are widely distributed across Asia, Europe, the Americas, and Australia, posing a serious threat to agriculture and native ecosystems. With their destructive strength and cunning ability to evade detection, wild boars are formidable adversaries for any hunter. That's why hunting them is always an intense challenge, demanding patience, experience, and a clear strategy. Reaching the mountaintop gave us a clear vantage point. With such a wide view, there was no way the wild boars moving below could escape our sights. Barlow and I quickly opened fire, but unfortunately, none of the bullets found their mark. The boars sharply changed direction and took off in another path. We had to pursue them immediately. There they are. Led by the alpha, the herd followed closely behind. Heart pounding, I raised my rifle and aimed at a large one. Perfect shot. The bullet hit dead on, striking the target and sending it tumbling down the slope. Another breathless pursuit was happening at Chad's location. He quickly chased after his target and fired, but the boar dashed away so fast that the bullets only grazed him. Refusing to give up, he kept firing. This time, the powerful barrage brought the boar down for good.
Ağaçlık bir bölge olduğu için çekemedik. O orada kaldı. Tüm avcı dostlara rastgele diyorum.
While continuing our search, Barlow and I both spotted a dark shape flickering on the opposite mountain. Without a word, we raised our rifles, adjusted our scopes, and fired. However, thick brush blocked the bullet's path. It wasn't until the second shot that the boar let out a painful scream and collapsed. After locating the animal, we fired one more shot to ensure there would be no unexpected counterattack. Half an hour passed, and suddenly, a herd of wild boars came crashing through the dense foliage in front of us. This was our moment. My teammates quickly took position from two angles, ensuring no boar could escape. Gunfire erupted in rapid succession. The first boar was struck and dropped immediately. The rest scattered in panic, trying to flee, but a few unlucky ones didn't make it out alive. The herd was clearly familiar with this terrain, making the hunt more tense than ever. They weren't running blindly. They moved with purpose, heading straight for the mountain peak where the forest thickened. From our position on the hillside, we watched dark shapes streaking through the canopy. We held our ground and opened fire instantly. The startled boars scattered in chaos. One bullet struck a vital spot on the boar, making it stumble, lose momentum, and tumble down the slope. The last rays of the evening sun lit the mountain, just enough to help us spot a target as we descended. The slope here was open, with few trees for the boar to hide. That gave us the perfect chance to take it down cleanly and decisively, without any struggle. The boars mistakenly thought descending the mountain would bring safety. Little did they know, we had already set up blockades at every exit. With a proactive approach, it didn't take long before we took down several. Shot and rolling across the ground, they lay motionless in the end. Recently, numerous Turkish news outlets have reported sudden wild boar attacks on locals, sparking public concern. In response to the situation, our hunting group decided to set out for the mountains of Anatolia, where wild boars have become a growing threat. Following the guidance on the tracking app, we quickly charged toward the moving wild boar, ready to cut off its path. Sure enough, it showed up just as expected. The black boar with rough bristles was charging toward a waterhole. The moment it sensed danger was the same moment we fired the first shot, accurate and decisive. In the blink of an eye, the boar collapsed motionless on the ground. A swift and convincing opening victory. We approached the mountaintop and began releasing the hunting dogs according to our plan formation. Soon, the harsh barking echoed from the dense bushes up ahead. Anticipating the danger if the boar were to counterattack suddenly, I gripped my loaded rifle tightly and carefully moved forward. Right then, a fierce wild boar burst out of the thicket. I immediately fired several consecutive shots. The boar collapsed instantly, without any chance to fight back. The intense barking of dogs echoed again from the other side of the mountain, a clear warning.
Yes!
Two of my teammates pushed through the thick treetops, gradually closing the distance to the prey. Once in a suitable position, Chad lowered himself into a firing stance and raised his gun. Oh my God, that's dangerous. Unexpected and dangerous situations are an inevitable part of the hunting journey, demanding that hunters stay ready and composed to take down the prey decisively. We didn't just focus on tracking in one location. We frequently moved around to seek out additional potential targets. Wait, did you hear that? The hunting dogs are barking again. It sounds like they're driving the prey toward us. So we decided to stop and observe carefully. As the sound grew clearer, I immediately raised my gun and aimed straight ahead. Yes, a wild boar was charging toward us, chased by the pack of dogs. What are we waiting for? Take the shot now. A well-placed shot to a vital spot brought the boar down. Smooth coordination among team members was another crucial factor that helped us quickly detect and take down targets effectively on every hunt. Within seconds, thanks to his sharp reflexes and expert skill, he cleanly took down the wild boar, lifting the whole team's spirits. For experienced hunters like us, detecting wild boars doesn't always rely on sound or visible tracks. It can come down to scent. Once I locked down the location, I quickly fired. The boar was hit and staggered, but the first shot wasn't enough to finish it. Only after several follow-up shots did the animal finally collapse for good. A sudden afternoon rain swept through the forest. While most of us had already returned to the rally point, Chad was still patiently waiting for the prey to appear. And that patience was well rewarded. After the crack of a clean shot, the target dropped neatly on the damp ground. If there is one memory that has been etched in my mind throughout my years of hunting, it is the breathtaking confrontation with a giant wild boar in the mountains of Anatolia. It seemed like a normal wild boar control hunt, but no, nature always knows how to make people respect it. I was with my close friend Mehmet, a veteran hunter in the area. This land has long been famous for its large wild boars, nurtured by dense oak forests or vast wheat fields. From the traces left behind, Mehmet confidently asserted, there was a leader very big. We divided up and set up checkpoints at familiar paths in the forest. Hearing the gunshots, I knew that my friend Mehmet had taken action. Just a moment, behind a bush, the wild boar appeared. It was not afraid, even looked at me with curiosity. It walked towards me. At this moment, I felt the danger, and I knew that if I did not act, I would become prey. The gunshots tore through the silence. The boar collapsed, and I breathed a sigh of relief. However, I waited at this position because Mehmet said over the radio that there were still a few more wild boars. Another wild boar appeared. Its size was similar to the previous one. This time, I was more experienced. I decisively killed it with one shot. The giant animal was hit and rolled down a mountainside. Wow, this is probably a moment I will never forget. As Mehmet and I gathered and continued to search for traces of wild boar, a wild boar suddenly appeared. Mehmet quickly shot it down. All the teammates were excited to hunt this huge boar. The hunting dogs did not need to rest. They continued to chase their prey. Just a moment later, we heard the barking of dogs deep in the forest. Well, they were surrounding a giant wild boar. Without wasting much time, we pulled the trigger and took it down.
Sana mı kaldırdı ya? Bana kaldırdı abi ya. Vallahi. Vallahi epeyden güzel. Ha bu kadar kaldı aramız ya. Az daha aldım güven. Gerçekten.
Do you see? The wild boars on this hunt were more impressive in size than all our other hunts. They were all very large in size, with thick and hard fur. Killing them was not easy, so we usually chose large caliber rifles to hunt wild boars in Anatolia.
Bir tane de burada. İki domuz bulduk.
We traced the wild boars through their footprints and droppings. We chose a location where wild boars often passed by to ambush them. Sure enough, it didn't take long. A few wild boars appeared. I quickly opened fire and shot them down. Still in the same position, I continued to take down a giant wild boar. It was running away from my hunting dog. Although hunting dogs are very effective in tracking wild boars, we should not be subjective because wild boars are very aggressive and dangerous. They can attack hunting dogs if chased. Therefore, you must keep a safe distance from these pigs. What if we were attacked by this huge wild boar? To prevent all danger, we quickly took down the wild boar. You can shoot wild boars from 50M or 100M or even 500M depending on your equipment. But my advice is to hunt wild boars at a distance of 150M to be both effective and safe. In the late afternoon, we moved to the farms next to the hilly area to hunt pigs. Here, we saw many herds of wild pigs running in the fields after harvest. The herds of wild pigs are very fast, so to take them down, we had to aim accurately. With one accurate shot, we took down another adult wild boar. Finally, we gathered the spoils, a large number of wild boars that we destroyed, especially those of enormous size and great destructive power.